Many times wrongdoings happen to us, or things happen to us where we do not agree with them, or we find that they have been done wrongfully to us. In today's video, I'm here to talk to you about what is the best solution for you to go for or to do in the interim, as well as we have what's called interim, so that's the short term. I'm going to give you the best short term remedy. I'm going to give you how to apply for it, and I'm also going to give you what it is in general for the best way for you to be able to understand in a more simplified way. In today's video, I'm here to talk to you about injunctions and what they are and how to apply for them. So, let's go. So therefore, what is an injunction? According to Black's Laws Dictionary, or according to all the different related articles concerning what injunction is, let me just give you the legal definition. An injunction is a court order or a document which stops a person or a set of events from happening. So in other words, an injunction is a document or a court order, an order that is given by court, stopping someone from doing a particular act or stopping a certain event from taking place. So let me just explain it to you. If a person is making a construction on your piece of land and you don't agree with it, you can run to court, or you can go to court and apply for an injunction to stop that person's construction from taking place, especially if there is a certain suit that is happening, or there's a certain case that is pending concerning that piece of land. So an injunction can either stop someone from doing something, or also stop a certain institution, or let's say a government institution from doing a certain piece of work, or stopping a certain chain of events. So now that I've explained what an injunction is, let me explain to you what the different types of injunctions are. Number one, let's go to preliminary injunctions. Let's look at what the word preliminary means. It means beginning. So preliminary means that anytime a court proceeding is beginning, a preliminary injunction can either take place before or during a court proceeding. So a temporary one comes in where you found that this person is constructing on a road reserve. You run to the High Court of Masaka and say, you know what, Mr. Musa is constructing on this road reserve. I think we need to put an injunction to stop him from further constructing on that road. So that's a temporary injunction. So the third type of injunction is what's called an interim or interlocutory injunction. So the word interim means in the short term, so it's also related to a temporary injunction. However, an interim injunction comes in to basically stop a certain person or institution still from doing anything on their piece of land until a final judgment is then passed, or this will be pending a final judgment in the long run. So basically, interim injunction comes in to preserve what is already happening in the case until finally a judge is going to come up with their decision. So many of you may be wondering what laws govern what an injunction is in Uganda. We have the Judicature Act, in specific section 38. So section 38, basically, I'll just read in verbatim. Verbatim means, I'm just going to paraphrase what it means. Section 38 empowers the High Court to be able to grant an injunction. Now, many of you may be wondering, what's the difference between an injunction and a caveat? A caveat, I've already explained to you, I'll leave the link in the description, but a caveat is basically granted by a registrar. An injunction is a court order which is granted by court. In most cases, it's granted by the High Court. And what empowers the High Court? It is Section 38 of the Judicature Act of Uganda. So who can apply for an injunction? Number one, for the conditions for a person to apply for an injunction is basically number one. The first condition is that the person who is applying for an injunction should have a high likelihood of success in the main suit. Now, I'm going to explain this to you very, very clear and slowly. An injunction is not a case. It's not that you're going to ask for it in the final suit. I've explained what a suit is, and you're not going to ask it in its final prayers. When you are in the middle of a case, let's assume this table is a case, the injunction is going to be the application. So even in the middle of a case, you can still apply to court and say, my lord, still this person is trespassing on my land, but they have continued to trespass on my land and they're constructing a building there without my consent. I am still applying for an injunction to stop the building of that building or tower. So basically, the person who is applying for an injunction should have a high likelihood of success. And this was seen in a number of cases, but I'm going to give you the first big case, which actually just happened last year, which was Robert Chagulanyi, who is commonly known as Bobby Wine, and he was versing URA. Now, just briefly, the facts of this case is that URA had wanted to impound and take away Mr. Robert Chagulanyi's V8, which he had just bought in the late year of 2020. It came into Uganda in 2021, and yet he had cleared all the taxes and everything concerning his Toyota Land Cruiser V8. So later on, Robert Chagulanyi went to court and asked for an injunction. Even when there was a major suit going on, he through his lawyer applied for an injunction. However, the injunction was denied to him. The reason that the judge gave in that case is that Robert Chagulanyi did not give enough evidence, or even if you granted money for the wrong that has been done to you, your damage must be irreparable, meaning that for them to grant you this injunction, you must have suffered damage even more than money cannot buy. So I think that's what I was basically trying to say. So this injunction was the injunction that Chagulanyi was asking for was then denied to him because he failed to prove these two conditions. Okay, so how does one apply for a temporary injunction, or in this case, an injunction? First of all, the applicant must file through his lawyer to a competent court, and this is through way of chamber summons. Now, chamber summons is basically your lawyer is going to go to the judge's chambers and then ask for an injunction. By then, they must have already applied for an injunction through a formal application. So that's step number one. Step number two is that this application for an injunction should be coupled with an affidavit. Now, many times I've told you that most applications or even notices of motion at least should be accompanied by something. But in this case, since it's an application and it's an injunction, which is a court order, it should be accompanied by an affidavit. Now, step number three. Once you've applied through chamber summons and you've coupled it with an affidavit, step number three is that you need to file court fees. There is no document in Uganda which you're going to file through court without paying legal fees. And of course, those are fees that court needs. Number four is that you're going through your lawyer, you're the applicant who is applying for an injunction. You're then going to serve it onto the defendant. Now, in this case, I gave you an example of Robert Chagulanyi versus URA. So in this case, Chagulanyi's lawyer was supposed to file this affidavit in a court and then also serve it upon the respondent, who was then URA. So step number five is that the respondent is then going to file a defense or file a reply in response to the application of the injunction. Then step number six, after the defendant has then filed a reply or given a written reply to the court, then the final step is that the court is going to take it into consideration through a court proceeding. So there's going to be a hearing, and then there's going to be a hearing for whether the application of the injunction should be granted, whether in general the injunction should be granted. Then finally, the court will then decide through their judge, because I told you that an injunction is done or is requested for by a judge of the High Court. So finally, the judge is going to ask themselves whether this injunction should be granted to the applicant. And then finally, he or she will decide whether the applicant is either accepted or denied. That's basically how you apply, or that's basically how you, those are steps that I want to take you through about how to apply for a temporary injunction or an injunction in general. So thanks so much for listening to me. Many people have faced issues concerning people constructing on their land or a road reserve going on their land, and when I read the newspapers, I see injunctions flying in day out. People are always applying for injunctions for any sort of reason. So that's just an interim remedy. Just a final step is that an injunction is a short-term remedy, it's not a long-term remedy. However, they are what we call permanent injunctions. Permanent injunctions can always be granted in very rare circumstances, but they can be granted and it can be a final injunction. It doesn't necessarily have to be a temporary injunction. So, thanks so much for listening to me, everyone. I remain yours truly, Terry Kahuma. Feel free to hit the subscribe button, feel free to hit the like button, share this video with all of your friends, and let's see how Simply Legal is going to reach 4,000 subscribers, 5,000 subscribers, and the rest is going to be history until we move on further. I remain yours truly, Terry Kahuma, and I'll see you next time. Bye.